Gail, you're a genius.
Gail's a genius.
You are a genius. This egg me up for a day and a half. Last night I slept 11 hours. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours since I was in the egg.
Welcome to The Beginner's Guide to the Third Eye, the podcast that delves into the profound realms of spiritual experiences, exploring the dedicated practitioners and various modalities that guide us on our transformative path. Together, we will explore the mystical, the magical, the enlightened, and the sacred. In each episode, we pair seasoned practitioners, spiritual experiences, or healing modalities, and a willing participant to share their experience in working together. We will explore the unique insights, stories, and wisdom gained from their own profound journeys, unveiling the extraordinary narratives that shape spiritual seekers and practitioners alike. My name is Krista Rauschenberg, and my work as a healer has emerged from hundreds of hours of certified training, spiritual initiations, direct experience, and deep personal work. I have been employed in the healing arts as a postpartum doula, an advanced Akashic reader, an Akashic breathwork practitioner, and a writer. Facilitating and educating people through their personal, spiritual, and healing journeys is my greatest source of happiness.
And I'm Elle Larson. I use sound and space to help balance internal and external environments. I've practiced holistic healing modalities for over 20 years, and my work includes Tibetan bowl sound healing, feng shui, Reiki, and shamanism.
Welcome once again to the Beginner's Guide to the Third Eye, where we demystify the mystical. On today's show, we'll be exploring the Harmonic Egg. It is a sound and light quantum healing chamber that delivers frequency of light, sound, and color to the body in a resonant chamber. The Harmonic Egg incorporates Tesla mathematics, sacred geometry, and the golden mean ratio within its construction. It is a self-evolving adaptive technology that uses sound and light as it works with the cellular body, resetting the autonomic nervous system and restoring it to its natural state of creation. Let's welcome our guest for this episode of the Harmonic Egg. We are lucky enough to have the inventor of the egg, Gail Lynn. Gail has dedicated her life's work to educating people of the empirical evidence that sound and light work together with sacred geometry to create the space where the body can heal itself. Gail has spent countless hours researching sacred geometry, how light and color penetrate and bond the cellular body, and how music waves and frequency uniquely integrate with the vibration of each individual body. She has done a deep dive into exploring the frequencies of different instruments and how they affect the chakra system. And in doing so, has studied ancient cultures and traditions, uncovering how sound energy has been used throughout time as a healing modality. Gail is not only a passionate teacher, but an intuitive channel and aspires to bring healing consciousness and the frequency of love to the entire world. And our willing participant is Tammi Leader. She is the founder of Campowerment, which is a female-founded and family-run year-round community for women to grow together. They produce live and online expert-led programs that offer a sense of community, which is part summer camp culture and part personal development. Think sleepaway camp on a mission. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. Gail, I would love to start with you. A big reason that we do this podcast is to bring energy workers to the forefront, help educate people, and normalize what this work is. To understand you and how this work came about, it might be interesting to start with your first foray into the metaphysical. How did you learn about energy and energy healing? If you could start there, I think that would be wonderful.
I went to Peru with my now ex-husband who wanted to rewire his brain. And so he went to Peru a week before me and did the Amazon jungle. When I heard there were spiders as big as paper plates, I decided to forego that part and just go to the Machu Picchu part. And when I showed up there, he had done some really crazy stuff. The poison frog and the ayahuasca. And when I showed up, he asked me for a divorce. And he fell in love with the assistant tour guide. I was wondering, why am I here? Why didn't he call me and just tell me he wanted a divorce? Why am I flying halfway across the world? And, we were in Cusco, so like cold showers. He was sleeping in her room. And I thought, why am I here? So there's another hike that you can do by Machu Picchu. You go all the way up this very dangerous hike. And I was hanging my legs over, and you could see the birds flying, and you were on top of the birds. You could see so much beauty and so much magic. And this was in, I would say, 1998. And I just realized that I'm here for a reason. It's not to work in automotive. It's not to work in telecom. It's not to work in Hollywood. It's not to be married to the narcissistic sociopaths. It's to be the expression of my true self as a human soul and express that love that I have and be on this planet and give back. And so that started the journey. It was this trip to Peru. It was so magical and so beautiful. Now we have 2 eggs in Lima, and I do remote sessions in those eggs to connect to the land again. And it's so amazing.
And then how did the harmonic egg come to you? Did it transform into something completely different as you gave it space to do so, much like a creative endeavor would do?
I started out running a center in 2010 with rectangular light boxes. And so that's how the egg morphed into something more. The rectangular box seemed very masculine, and I knew we were coming into the divine feminine. And I realized that instead of a box with the angles, we need this 360 degrees of healing. And we need to find the rebirthing and the feminine of the egg. And there was a 4-inch foam pad that you would lie on. So there was distortion in the music. There were MP3 files. So I'm an engineer. So here's my little mind going crazy day in and day out, just downloading and creating music based on the waveforms of instruments, not the frequencies, because everybody's going to vibrate at a different frequency. The egg itself, just standing there, no music, no lights, is about 1300 hertz. Why would I put the solfeggio suite in there with 528? I would be bringing the vibration of the egg down. I looked at the waveforms of instruments and how they work with the organs, how they work with the body, using only WAV files, which are the highest quality, no compression, no loss of integrity of the music. And downloads just kept coming. Very galactic, very beautiful, in the dream state. And I'm an engineer from Detroit, from a blue collar family. So to me, I think that I'm a little crazy sometimes. But the magic of it is just keeps coming and coming. And it's life changing.
Wow. So a few technical questions from the inception of your idea of it to the actual production. How long did that take, and how did it morph and change, if at all?
So yeah, great question. I have a CAD and engineering background. So as soon as I thought of it, I started drafting it. So from the time that I created the drawing and it was real was 1 year. It was very quick, and even the patent. So I filed for the patent, but I told the universe and I told the eggs, I said, if you want the patent, then make it happen. You go ahead and get it approved. It was approved like that. It was so quick.
Wow.
So some people say, well, I had submitted my patent in 2016 and I still don't have it. So, well, mine was really fast. A lot of things changed, like the door design. The sacred geometry never changed. The golden ratio, the hexagon platform, that never changed. But the door design, we had it on hinges, kind of like it still looks like a spaceship, but opening like a DeLorean door. And we thought, that's not going to last. The hinges are going to pop. There's just a lot of wear and tear. So then we went to a sliding door design, and now we have like the Narnia door on the ellipse design, which Tammi experienced. So it's just so beautiful. And it went from finding manufacturers that didn't have a lot of skills, and I didn't have a lot of money. I self-funded this whole thing.
Wow.
And so they ended up painting and kind of filling the inside to make it smooth. And that sometimes left a little bit of a smell to off gas, even though it was no VOC paint, but there was still something that wasn't as magical as I wanted it to be. And then I said, we need raw wood. And so Tammi experienced the walnut, just beautiful walnut right in your space, immersed in this beautiful spiritual properties of walnut, and no paint over it. Walnut has properties of wisdom, protection, knowledge, strength, discernment, fertility, clarity, focus, prosperity. I can go on and on. So the ellipse, or the harmonic egg ellipse, has the walnut, now pure walnut. Our home unit has oak, because oak is strength, endurance, ancient wisdom, power. And the Native Americans believe that oak is the tree of life. So I also consider the spiritual properties of that. So people say, The harmonic egg was built like the Taj Mahal. Every tile has a specific intention. Everything about the harmonic egg has been researched 9 ways from Sunday, and trying to put it all together with Edgar Casey's quote that stuck in my head. If someone would bring together the spiritual forces of light and the spiritual forces of sound, it'd be a great modality for the future. So it has morphed. The music has morphed. When a musician has a large ego, the music doesn't resonate in the egg. It sounds very flat.
Wow.
So even like Ethok Perlman or Yo-Yo Ma or those, they don't really resonate in the egg, which is so funny because their music is so amazing and so beautiful. I have to choose high heart, high vibrational, energetic musicians who are there to help heal the planet, to help heal people. And that music resonates in the egg. So the music keeps changing.
Wow. That's incredible. Tammi, you were a producer on the Today Show for 30 years, which would have put you in front of a lot of fascinating people. I don't know how many of those would have been in the metaphysical realm, but I'd love to understand what your first foray into the metaphysical was, what your beliefs are, how open are you to all of this as a willing participant?
Interesting question, actually, because I was the naysayer from the beginning who used to make fun of my friends and sing the do 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 Twilight Zone to any of them. I actually wrote a book in 2005 with 5 other women, and 2 of them had been studying the shamanic world. They had been studying with Alberto Villoldo from the Four Winds. I don't know if you know him. Yeah, Gail's shaking her head. This was 25 years ago. They had met on a fam trip. One was a journalist from Univision. The other was the head of PR for American Airlines. They went to Machu Picchu for a trip. Both were pretty staunch Catholics and had no belief in the metaphysical, and both had incredibly miraculous experiences similar to Gail's that really got them sparked and got them studying shamanism. It wasn't okay for Mercedes Soler, who was an anchor on Univision, to be talking about that, really. But both of them started on this foray, and I was writing a book with them in the early 2000s about how having it all isn't having it all at all, and how having enough should be enough. And as we started to do that, they started to share a lot of this stuff that I was still a complete skeptic about. And then I moved into a haunted house that was on an Indian burial ground, and I had no idea. And when I was so desperate, because so many really crazy things started to happen, I called them both and said, okay, bring in your people. Like, you got to clear this. And they brought a shaman to me who was incredible. And as he started to go through my home, I had some really terrible things that started to happen in the home. My dog fell in the pool and went blind. I tripped over something and got stuck on the ground, and I felt something pulling at me. I could not get up. I had some really big slaps in the face. And when we brought this shaman to the house, he brought me to the backyard and showed me that we were on a beautiful ridge. He said, "Do you see the way these trees are planted in a circle? You're sitting on an Indian burial ground." And of course, we drive into our complex, and there's a big man on a horse with a victorious whatever commemorating how they slaughtered the Tequesta Indians here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I've made that turn every day and never paid any attention to it. But as he brought this attention to me, he said, "You got to get out of here. This place is not for you." I didn't believe in any of it until I got to a point where I really got sick. And he told me I needed to start making offerings. I was going to do anything at this point. I was pretty desperate. At the end of the day, it woke me up. And I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this. And I just started to study and learn and read and started to believe.
So you are a seeker of sorts. Is there anything that you won't try? Tell us what kind of healings, spiritual initiation, readings, things like that have you tried?
Everything that is placed in front of me, I jump at. I'm 64 years old, and I spent a lot of years as a skeptic. I always believed in God. I was raised Jewish. I was never religious, but the universe now tells me exactly what I need to be doing. And I throw every question out to whoever, whatever it is, and magic happens for me every single day. And I think the older we get and the more we really see and feel what's happening in the world, we start to open ourselves up to the belief systems that weren't exactly the ones that we were taught as children.
Gail, when you said that the egg itself radiates at a certain frequency, so you don't want to bring in the frequency of love because that'll be lower. Could you give us the basics? How does the egg work?
So if you want to learn more too, David Hawkins has a great book, Power versus Force, beautiful book. And he basically explains, it's great. Explains that fear vibrates at like 100 hertz and shame is 200 hertz and everything is below 250 hertz. But when you get above that into love and the Christ consciousness, you're going to the 1,000 hertz and more. So I believe that disease lives in that low vibration, that disease lives in fear and shame and hate and judgment and criticism. And if we can stay in a place of love and gratitude, disease can't really touch us because on a two-dimensional world, we're up here and disease is down here. So the egg actually raises your vibration to help boost your immune system and to work on your organs and to balance your nervous system. Our bodies are so beautiful and our bodies are so magical, and they're a more intricate machine than anything we could ever create. And they just work. But in the wrong environment, they spin out of control and then they create diseases. It's okay, there's a stress, there's a trauma. What am I going to turn this into? This will be cancer. This is Parkinson's. This will be allergies. And so we reset the nervous system and the body. Oh, that's not normal. Oh, this is our normal. This is our beauty. This is our perfection from birth. And it helps the cells to hydrate. It helps the trauma to clear on so many different levels. So some people will get a little nauseous or a headache. You want to drink the water. You want to stay away from other energy work, because when you start putting one on top of the other, the body still spins out of control and says, we don't know what you want. You're hounding us with all this different energy. It's all beautiful, but you do one, let it integrate. We say that the egg takes about 5 to 7 days to integrate for most people. So you'll see things happening for 5 to 7 days. And you don't want to pound it with acupuncture or a massage or other energy work. You want to let it integrate. Our bodies are amazing, beautiful things that can heal on their own. But in our stressful world, we have a hard time finding that balance and de-stressing. So it's just a tool for you to use to help you to get your body into the right environment to heal itself naturally.
It's such a beautiful explanation. I think too, we are so inundated with electronics and information that we're playing a really dangerous game because we don't know how much we can take. And if you liken this body to a computer or some kind of mechanical instrument, everything's just blowing up.
To that note, the egg is based on electronics, right? So it's LED lights or it's some type of light. So it's not like you're in a completely acoustic environment.
So it's made out of wood, but you're right. There's LED lights in there. There's a subwoofer for the vibration of a sonic massage. But because of the sacred geometry, I've tested the EMFs inside and there are 0. It's like a Faraday cage inside. But as soon as I take the EMF meter outside and check the amp, then you see all the EMFs. But inside, you are in this really crazy environment of sacred geometric forms and the energy is spinning around inside there, you're not getting the EMFs. So I liken it to a Faraday cage, but there's other scientists and doctors that have said that the way the music is, you're creating harmony inside there, so you're not getting the EMFs. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are electronics involved with it.
Yeah.
We don't use any Wi-Fi. We don't have any Bluetooth connected. So there's music players, but they're not connected to Bluetooth. There's an amplifier, subwoofer, lights, a light remote, but nothing's connected to Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. We actually have one in Malibu. It's on the top of a mountain with no internet. So we had to create things that could be used without Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
For people that might not know, how would you define sacred geometry and why is it important in this?
So that's a great question. Sacred geometry to me is nature, looking at the beauty of nature. And you'll look at a flower and it'll have 6 petals or 9 petals or 3 petals, or you'll look at different items in nature and you'll see the 3, 6s, and 9s. So you look at the golden ratio and it's all divisible by usually a 3, 6, or 9. Tesla recognized this a long time ago. So I tried to make everything divisible by 3, 6, or 9. So 360 of healing, a 6-sided platform. And there's a dodecagon on the outside. It's paneled with 12 sides, which is universal wisdom and divine structures with the 12. So I tried to do that with my little engineering mind. And it's been really cool. Yeah, right.
Engineering mind.
I got a lot of help from my friends.
Yeah.
The Harmonic Egg survived a tornado in Garland, Texas. There was 2 buildings in the same lot. One was leveled, one was left untouched with the egg in it. It survived a flood in Michigan. It survived a hurricane in Fort Myers, and it survived a Marshall fires because there was one in Louisville, Colorado, in the middle of the Marshall fires. Over centuries, we've seen that sacred geometric structures like the pyramids are still standing. And so I think nature goes around it. I think people even unconsciously respect the sacred geometry, because how many wars have we had that the pyramids could have been destroyed and bombed, but somehow we respect sacred geometry on some level that we maybe don't even understand.
There's been studies that have shown that humans have a reduced stress response, or they are more comfortable in spaces that are a certain proportion, which is where the golden mean comes in and the golden spiral. And that's used a lot in biophilic design and other aspects of design work to create these spaces where we innately feel more relaxed because of these sacred geometric relationships with each other.
Yeah, you're totally right. And mandalas are created with sacred geometric. So people love meditating with mandalas. And oh my gosh, you're so right. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a harmony that it creates. And in that harmony, there's a strength and a power, allowing us to fully relax and be embodied, connected to the wisdom of our body, which is connected to source and spirit.
I do have a question, Gail, about the content. Is everything a custom composition and you've sought out different musicians that play these different instruments to compose something for the egg, or is some of it existing material?
Both. There's a lot of pieces that we've created just from scratch that I've just bought straight out from the musicians, and some of them are licensed, a combination.
And it's all instrumental music. There's no binaural beats or anything like that.
I have some issues with binaural beats. I've been to the Monroe Institute and the Hemisync music and those hollow sync, and I just feel like there's several schools of thought. I may not be right, and I'm still searching more information, but I don't believe we should force our body or brain to come into balance. My brain's going left or left. I don't want to force it to come into balance when it's not natural. I'm still learning about entrainment and hemisync and hollow sync and binaural beats. So we really only have one piece that's got some entrainment in it. And it seems to be working great. It's 40 hertz, and we use it for like dementia, Alzheimer's. So there's that.
Music and math have been linked for thousands and thousands of years. So when you mentioned harmony within the spatial environment, that's similar to harmony within the sonic environment as well. And Gail, I expressed a sigh of relief when I watched a video about the harmonic egg and you said it wasn't about frequency. It was about the instruments being used, because I think there is such a undue emphasis on the benefits of particular frequencies in the sound healing world. And I put sound healing in quotes, because just because you are listening to a certain frequency does not mean that it's going to remedy a particular ailment that you have or suddenly get you over a certain condition.
There is no one size fits all. I'm exactly agreeing with you. And we're all different galactic beings, if you will. So 528 hertz for me is not going to do the same thing in an MP3 file, listening to it on some crappy speakers or in a room and it's dissipating in. So there's so many different factors. Yes.
You mentioned the sound of the flute helps to alleviate anger or pacify anger. I was wondering about that. The connection with certain instruments with certain emotional states.
Yes. We found that the waveform of the flute is very simple. And thousands of people that I've had through the Harmonic Egg would say, oh my gosh, I felt that in my liver. There's something called rhythmic entrainment, where the emotions get invoked during a piece of music, where you feel it in every organ, or you feel it in your heart, or you say, oh my gosh, I felt that music in my liver, or I felt that music in my stomach, or I felt that music in my root chakra. So what I came up with is Kay Gardner's work in her book, Sounding the Inner Landscape, is one of the top books that I learned a lot from. I think she was completely brilliant, but really unrecognized. Over the years of research, I was looking at drumming being the immune system, building the immune system, because we were doing live blood analysis before and after and seeing more white blood cells.
Wow.
So it's a lot of research, it's a lot of studying, it's a lot of geeking out, and I loved every second of it. And then putting the pieces together and doing charts with colors, with instruments, with the elements, with the planets, everything I looked at. I've done this comparison chart, really engineering geek outs kind of stuff, and said, okay, this color associates with this and this chakra and this planet and this tone or key in the notes, the musical notes. And I created a training manual and said, okay, and it's also in my book. It's not a secret. The heart chakra can come into balance with bells and green light, and the liver can come into balance with orange light and the flute music. So I've laid this all out with the crown chakra being strings, and the heart chakra can come into balance with string instruments as well. What I also lay out in there is, what imbalances do you notice that you can say, oh my gosh, my crown chakra is probably out of balance because I have a brain injury or a brain tumor. I get a lot of headaches. Maybe my third eye chakra is out of balance. It all relates to Western medicine and the autonomic nervous system. After 15, 20,000 clients, I feel like I have a good basis to say that I think in the Harmonic Egg, orange light and flute music is helping the liver. When I create a piece of music, the nature sounds are very important. We try not to use any synthesized sounds, but the droning in those pieces that you heard is going to be some synthesized sounds. I ask the musicians to please hold a space of love when they're playing. I don't want them thinking about their problems at home or at work. I'm asking them, as I consult with them as the producer of the pieces of music, hold a space of love for either a fur baby, like your cute little puppy, or for a place like Santorini, Greece, or somewhere that they love, not a person. So I have them hold that space, so we have that love in there. And then I want to say, okay, I need water sounds because PTSD is helped with water sounds. And I have a lot of veterans who come in and they will admit, wow, I felt like sitting in front of that fountain room, and my son has a fountain in his backyard, and I'm always drawn to those water sounds. And so you see how people then can connect the dots and say, yes, water sounds do help with my PTS or PTSD. So it's really interesting. And I've read some studies, there's 600 to 800 layers of the DNA that are helped with nature sounds. And so we don't want to synthesize a bird chirping, because we don't know as a human being, when is the bird going to stop chirping? And in that silence is where the healing's happening. So their chirp silence, the silence is the magic. When I listen to a piece of music in the egg, I see the colors that are intended, and I also feel it in the different chakras. And so I came up with animal sounds for each of the different chakras. So now I have pieces of music where I can say, okay, I'm going to use the wolf for the throat chakra, or the gray wise owl for the crown chakra, the eagle for the third eye chakra, the lioness, which doesn't have a sound, but sometimes we can just have the musician hold the intention and the energy of a lioness for the root chakra. And so I've been really putting that into the music as well. That's all very consciously created, very much in place of love. And then I also, inside the resonant chamber, want to make sure that the wood that we're using has the right spiritual properties to resonate with the acoustic properties of the music that we're using. It's all connected. It's all the same thing, just different language. So I studied all of it and brought it all together, and then put it into a manual to say, if you suffer from this, it could be an imbalance and this, and here's the colors and instruments that will bring that back into balance. So all my center owners, when they're helping a client set their intention, they have all this education, knowing, okay, wow, if there's an imbalance in the pancreas, it could be worry. And here's the instruments and the colors that'll help bring that back into balance.
Which is important. If I'm coming in as a client, they're going to ask me what I'm looking to remedy or how I'm feeling. And I could say nothing and go in and just have a, neutral experience. But if I do have headaches, I can tell them that. And then they can set the lighting and the music to address my particular ailments.
I would love to hear how Tammi experienced it.
I went thinking that I was going to go for this pain in my leg and the pain in my joints, so stressed out, literally wanting to stop and buy cigarettes. That's how stressed out I was. My body was trembling. I had so much shame and anxiety over the way I handled something, and I knew I had to fix it. So when I got there, Adriana, she could see in me, she's an energy person, and she could see that I was off. And so when we sat down, and by the way, I hadn't shed a tear over this. I was just in self-torture mode. And that's not why I thought I was coming. And as she sat and she sat with me for an hour and gave me tea and we talked about it, I started weeping. And I started sharing all of this extraneous stuff that had nothing to do with the pain in my body. It was much more anxiety based. And she was so amazing. And I just started crying, which I had not done in a long time, and just releasing stuff. And she was so patient. And my appointment was 5 o'clock. And by 7 o'clock, it was like, okay, are we ready to start? But she asked me so many specific questions about what I was feeling. And apparently, as she explained to me, there are 69 tracks of music. And depending upon where you are and what you do, that track that she chooses, and that's why you want to go to somebody, obviously, who knows what they're doing. She basically analyzed what I was feeling anxiety-wise to try to alleviate some of that. And so I went in there. I thought the light, and again, she explained some of it, but I said, just let me just go do this. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be thinking or whatever. And I went in and I was exhausted because I hadn't slept the night before from the stress. And I didn't want to fall asleep through it. But I got into the chair, I started to relax, and I really was overthinking for the first 4 or 5 minutes. What am I supposed to feel? What am I supposed to do? I want to connect with my dead mother. I had a whole agenda of what I wanted to get out of this. And I thought the lights were going to change, but apparently for whatever she put me in, they did not. I closed my eyes, but every time I closed my eyes, it turned red. And so I didn't know what any of that meant. And I thought, this is a cool, beautiful, meditative session. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. And all of a sudden, and I didn't know if the egg was turning or not. It felt like the egg was turning in clockwise direction. Then I don't know if I fell asleep. I don't really remember much after that. I just remember when I heard that gong, I was pissed that it was over because I didn't know if I had slept through it or what. But I came out and I really felt calm. I really, for the first time in a couple of days, I had felt calm. And I drove home and I felt great.
Hi. Wow. It was weird. It was like, first of all, and I'm going through some heavy stuff right now. So I have some issues. I have a lot of pain in my left leg. I have a torn ligament and my hip is off. So I've constantly got pain in my leg. So I said, that's an issue. I said, but my digestion too is off. And it's like my nervous system is off. Like I'm feeling anxious and I don't really know why. So they give you the track for whatever that is. And so you're in a zero gravity chair under a blanket. And so you're completely relaxed. And for 50 minutes, they play this music and this light. But I was very heady about it in the beginning. Of course, I was like, oh my God. I was thinking of all the people I know who would love this. Like I was going into my Tammi mode. And I kind of stopped myself like, no, this one's about you. And what I realized my intention was I want to get out of this session. I want to be cared for. I want to feel held in a space that is safe and comfortable and balances me. And while I was in it, first it was very heady. And then it became like, once I let go, I felt like I was spinning in a ball. I was surprised it didn't move. It felt like the egg was moving, but I felt like I was moving clockwise. And again, I don't know at what point that happened because you're in 40 minutes with this intense music that really changes. Sometimes it's drum beat, and it's specifically designed for what my issues were. So sometimes it was trombone. You could feel it in your body. when the music changed. Then I think I fell asleep because all I remember is hearing the gong going, no, I don't want it to be over. But I don't know what happened. I feel completely energized. I was so depleted that when I was driving, because it was a long drive and it was rush hour, I was like, I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel. I don't know what happened in there. I don't understand sacred geometry. I don't know that much about it. But you're really just like sitting in a relaxed back chair, reclined all the way back, under a blanket because it's a little cold in there, listening to this music. But I saw my grandmother, I saw my mother. When I say I saw, I felt them saying it's all going to be okay. Do not stress about it. It's all going to work itself out. And I came out so much calmer. And I cried a lot in the beginning, which is interesting because I haven't cried for days. She said everyone cries when they get there. She said literally when you're sitting in front of it, it already starts to work before you even go in. So I was like, yeah, everybody cries. Well, I'm not going to cry. And of course, I'm start weeping. But when I came out of it, I felt energized and joyful. Like I felt very awake and like wow, I don't really know what happened. But I can tell you that my entire energy has changed, has shifted in a like I'm just calmer. I'm not like I was full of it. I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't know. I can't really explain it yet. What that did, but it did something. So it was pretty wild. Really wild.
I felt super calm. I called Krista. I told her what happened, and I thought it was really great. That night, I was so nauseous, and I tried to sleep. I was up until 2:00 in the morning, just drinking water, didn't eat, slept for 4 hours, had a terrible restless sleep, woke up. I felt like crap. And I had a lot to do, and I had to have that confrontational experience that day as well. Or I had to think about how I was going to deal with this. So I didn't eat Tuesday and I didn't eat Wednesday at all. Literally, I was just drinking water and I was throwing up and I had stuff going through me. But I woke up feeling the anxiety almost gone, which is weird because I still hadn't changed anything. And yesterday morning when I woke up, I felt like this is not going to be a big deal for me. And after it tortured me for days, and everything went beautifully and it was all fine and it was all done in love. And when I hung up and got and started to realize that all of this anxiety that I had, that I'd been holding, was gone, and I could actually come from my truth and share what was real as opposed to stuff I hadn't really confronted before. I literally ate steak and a baked potato at 4:00 yesterday. It was one of those things where my body just felt like it was recalibrating. And once I accomplished what I needed to do, which was the antithesis of what I thought I was going to the egg for. Last night I slept 11 hours and woke up today like, oh my goodness. I feel like an Etch-a-Sketch has cleared everything out of my nervous system and is resetting.
It's interesting. People might look at that as a negative, but imagine that you're carrying that around. And if we all live in a fishbowl, that's the water, the dirty water, that's your environment. And it informs the way you see the world. It becomes the lens with which you look through the world and what you're having to digest on a daily basis.
I hear this a lot. I mean, I've heard 20,000 stories if I want, right? And everybody has a different experience. And so the purging happened for you. And I just want people to know that there is a bell or a gong at the end, and it lets you know, oh, the door is going to open. So you're not startled if somebody opens the door. So that when you heard the gong, you were upset.
Because I didn't want it to be over. Whatever was happening to me calmed me down in a way that I had not been calmed for days. I was blown away by what I was feeling, and it was irreconcilable to me almost because I so live in my head, and my body clearly stepped in and shoved my brain over. And I really thought I was coming for joint pain. It recalibrated something. I don't know what, I don't know how. When I filled out the forms for the pain, not so much for the anxiety. But she explained that when she chose what she did, it was to balance my autonomic nervous system. And that's why the music and the instruments she chose were for that. And she warned me. She said, you're probably not going to feel great until you do. In the form that I filled out was very different than what actually transpired in my conversation with her, because she could see that I had agita.
Doctors don't do that. Doctors, you go in, fill out a form, you say you got a stomach ache. They're like, oh, you have an ulcer, here's a pill. They don't look at what the worry is around the stomach. They don't look at what is the root cause of the pain. So sometimes you'll fill out the form, but in that conversation that you have with the practitioner, they're picking up energetically what is going on with you, what is the best song selection to use for you. And I just think it's just a really beautiful, loving experience for you to go in there, be by yourself. It's not group healing.
Mm-mm.
And you go and you just experience yourself, have your journey. You have that 10 minutes of silence at the end, which we don't have in our world.
Mhm.
And then it helps you to integrate. It helps the nervous system to realize what was just happening and to recalibrate.
You've spoken about the importance of the people that manufacture and operate the egg, having a high integrity, a high vibration to surround the egg with love. Can you speak more about that and how do you go about securing that to be true?
Yes, I have two manufacturers now, and this is how I interview them. I say, these are our brand attributes. If you have an employee that's having a bad day, don't let them touch the equipment. Don't let them touch the parts. Don't let them touch anything. I want everybody to have this energy around it so people can feel it when they step into the egg. I want them to feel the love. I wish that everybody could have a quality of life without pain, without suffering. I know it's a little pipe dream, but
Yeah.
our bodies are capable of it.
Absolutely. I think at one point the egg was a pipe dream, and look what you've done. So don't consider it a pipe dream at all. We covered sacred geometry in your words to understand how does sound heal the body and how does light heal the body?
My simple answer is we're vibrational beings of light from source, from God. So why not heal with sound and light? But it has to be the right sound and light. We're not talking about fluorescent lights and MP3 music. And I can hear when it's an MP3 file versus a .wav. I can definitely hear the difference.
You've mentioned that a session with the Harmonic Egg brings you closer to your higher self. Can you expand on that? And how in practice and application does that work?
Whenever I go in, I feel like when there's trauma, when I have shame, when I have guilt, I feel like it clears that trauma. When you have trauma, it almost bogs you down and it stops you from having that direct connection to source. It's like a veil. So this veil gets lifted and then I can hear source energy, God, universe, whatever word you use. I can hear more clearly, especially after the silence. Silence is where you get spoken to from source, from God, from the universe. I was an overachiever, never spent time in silence. And that's why I got really sick. And this is how this came to me. If I didn't find this and listen, then I probably wouldn't be here. I'd be dead by now. But I feel like I'm so much calmer. I'm so much more in gratitude and love because I can connect to my higher self, to source energy, because the veil's lifted, the trauma's cleared, the cells are cleaner, the cells are more connected. And it just is a beautiful place that almost the human language doesn't have words for. And if I try to explain it, it kind of negates because I don't know how to explain when you connect to God.
As you were creating this, tell us how the information came to you. I can imagine a catch-all phrase is a download. How does it work for you in your intuitive relationship?
It's the right side. For me, it's the right side. It comes in from the right side. And then I get a ringing in the ear when I'm right. When I'm on my path, it'll be like, I'm like, okay, that's the right. Or I'm saying something to somebody, my ear will start ringing, or I know that it's right. It's the right energy. It's the right information. So I'll get it from the right side. I remember setting a shaman in the egg one day, and she said, I just don't feel well. I'm sick. I'm this. And I said, okay, so let's boost your immunity. I went to turn the sound down on the amp and my arm flew back.
Wow.
And I heard heart opener. I'm like, why would I put her on a heart opener when she's got diarrhea and she's sick? So I said, okay, I'm wrong. Usually when that information comes in, I listen.
Mm-hmm.
So more than information comes in when you listen. The more you listen, the more they give you. So I put her on a heart opener, got her out. I said, why was I told to put you on a heart opener? I said, what's going on? Because I don't think you're sick. And she said, OMG. She said, I just got back from Florida. My ex-husband flew me down there for our grandchild's graduation. I spent time with his new wife and we would be friends if I lived there. So she was purging all the shit she's been holding on to. And I had to open up the heart for her to release the rest of that and just have that love for her ex-husband. The guide said she needs a heart opener, not a boost immunity kind of session.
Beautiful. So you've created this extraordinary healing device that you can in some ways measure and count on to deliver a certain level of healing for the body. What are the things that you didn't count on? What has the device been able to do that you had no idea it could do, or any story you'd like to share?
Okay, I didn't expect this at all, but I had little kids that were in there saying, okay, the white guy's working on my head, so I need to stay in here longer. I've had people in there that said that they had Lyme disease that was not medically detectable anymore, but they still had the energy of the Lyme disease. And during a session, a blue tick, energetic tick, jumped out of her head, circled around the egg. An Andromedan being came in and chomped it up. It turned to dust. And she's telling me the story while clients were in the lobby. And I thought, everybody's going to run out of here. And they were all just so immersed in this conversation, just loving this conversation. And I said to them after, I'm like, are you okay? And they're like, fascinating. So the people that come there usually are pretty open-minded and they're open to that. But to me, from my background as a blue collar, my mom and dad would have thought that was just wacko. I can tell you stories after stories. For me, it was my Sirius B, the planet Sirius B, teachers that I think assisted this to become on the planet now. So there's the Palladians, there's the Arcturians, there's the Hathors or Hathors, as some people say it, there's the Andromedans. There's so many different beings that are assisting. So what it feels like inside the egg is that there's galactic beings that are physicians working on you. And some people have even told me, they're like, I had a psychic surgery. I didn't even know what that was till somebody told me. And they said, basically, they opened up my heart and worked on it. And then he came in a few months later and said, I just want to thank you for saving my life. And he said, the beings worked on my heart and I had a heart attack. And they told me I should have died. And he said, I knew I didn't because I had that work done.
Wow.
So those are things I didn't expect. And then I've also incorporated other soul parts, how our soul is out there in different places, different aspects. I had another soul aspect come into my body and I freaked out. My office manager at the time was a healer. And I said, oh my gosh, I looked over to the side and it was me merging with me. And I jumped out. I opened the doors and jumped out. And she said, sit down. You're partly in and partly out. And I got to put you back in. She said, this is going to bring in more knowledge from this soul part coming in, incorporating with you. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? What don't we know? What powers do we have that we just don't express? I know they say we only use 10% of our brain. And I think that's probably maybe 1% of our brain.
This is just a little bit of a tangent. I worked as a postpartum doula and saw so many children coming in with what I would consider special gifts, sometimes classified as autism or on the spectrum. Have you worked with children in the Harmonic Egg? Is this something that could help them regulate and be more available in this world?
So Susie Miller and I met. She wrote the book Awesomism about the autistic community. She said that the nonverbal autistic kids were telling her there's going to be a pod that comes to the planet. It's going to help us, blah, blah, blah. And she's, yeah. So she said she kept listening, but she didn't know. And then some lady introduced me to Susie and she's like, this is the pod.
Wow.
And she flew to Denver right away from California where she was living at the time. And she went in and she said, this is it. And she said, they showed me that like all these different eggs were opening up and coming down from this beautiful tree of life. And all the different expressions of the autistic community and their autistic or their galactic beings that were opening up, and they were just so grateful. And I've got goosebumps now too. So we are helping, I think, us to understand them because they're so brilliant. But there's remote sessions that we were doing with them because they're so tuned in. So there was a lady, she was doing anything and everything to help her autistic child. The child who was nonverbal sat on his dad's lap after a session and said, powerful egg. The dad was like, what? Powerful egg.
Wow.
And the dad's a believer now, as you can only imagine.
I would love to know, as a healing practitioner, tell us, aside from the Harmonic Egg, what are your self-care practices? How do you keep yourself in balance and in alignment? And I know you have a harmonic egg at your disposal. But aside from that,
I have a horse. So I probably go out there 6 or 7 times a day. I do yoga every day. I try to do at least 20 to 30 minutes of yoga. I think it's important that we have our self-care. If we can't take care of ourselves, how can we take care of everybody else? But some of my healer clients were the unhealthiest people that I saw at the center because they didn't take care of themselves because they're too busy serving. I eat well. I do smoothies every day. I drink as much water as I can, even though I'm still learning about hydration because just this water is not hydrating. I have electrolytes. I do pomegranate powder, beet powder to try to figure out what is the key for my body to be hydrated with my cells.
That's smart. Tammi, I want to check in with where you are now. I know you well. And first off, when's the last time you slept for 11 hours?
A long time ago. I now feel, I just feel free. I woke up today, man, sharp as a tack. I did my yoga, I did my meditation, and I'm just cranking shit out right now. And I'm trusting in a way that I haven't before, because what I learned from this is that you can overthink whatever you do, and you can put yourself in a state, whether it's real or whether it's not, and you could make yourself sick. You can't make this stuff up. That's all I'm going to say. I'm actually going to call Adriana and go back Friday when I'm back in town, because I feel like the second one could actually really build on the first one, I hope. And so I'm excited to see what's next.
I tell people do it at least 3 times to get the nervous system to be like, oh, that's not our normal. This is normal, because you can't expect muscle memory to happen in one session.
That makes a lot of sense. It's so inspiring.
Yeah.
And it's just so validating. It's like, this stuff matters. It really does matter, even though it's not mainstream, middle of the road, even accepted in a lot of circles. This stuff is happening despite all that. And people are finding it. People are finding their way to these alternative ways of healing and understanding and regulating and managing even. Wow, that's so wonderful. Ladies, thank you so much. Tell us where to find you. And Tammi, you have a book coming out, right?
Yes, by the end of the year.
Beautiful.
I believe it's going to be called Through the Fire. We're still playing with that. So the book is really about resilience and the power of connection and community in the spirit of playtime. And so that's what I'm working on.
So campowerment.com. Gail, you said you've written a book. Share that with us. And then how would you like to be found?
Yeah, the book, everything's online. Harmonicegg.com. Locations, you just put in your zip code, all of our products, the music that we sell for you to use at home.
Oh, beautiful.
We have song sheets. Yeah, we have song sheets that you can print off, and it'll tell you these are the colors intended for this. These are the organs or chakras or systems this will work with. Here's the tone it's created in. Here's the instruments that were used. Here's the musician. So you can print that off and use them at home in case you don't have the ability to go to a center. So harmonicegg.com is where you can find everything that we have.
And the eggs are all over the world, correct?
Yes, 130 centers, I think 135 now in 10 countries on 4 continents. It's really the medicine of the future, but the future is now. And so we are getting a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon, and we need to teach people through your podcast to be discerning.
What do you have coming up next for the Harmonic Egg?
Oh boy. Well, what I'm trying to do is research how we can replenish our vitamins and minerals with color. So whenever I finish a session, I have this thing called the VitaStick, and I've gotten my own baseline. It's 70% clinically accurate, but I wouldn't test anybody on it and say a blanket statement. I did one test on you, this is where your minerals are. But because I've done 50 or 60 tests on myself, and when I'm in the sun, I have more vitamin D. I have a vitamin C shower filter. So there's vitamin C powder that takes out the chlorine in my shower. And sometimes when that's running low, I'll see my vitamin C levels drop. So I have a good baseline on myself. So every time after I do a session, my mineral levels and my vitamin levels are just perfect. And then 3 days later, I see them fall off a little bit. So I'm trying to figure out, how is this relating to what colors I used in my session? We have color for a reason in our world, right? So what is the reason? If reds and oranges replenish our B vitamins, if we were to test the food, like a red pepper, does it have a lot of B vitamins in it? So I'm trying to figure this out. This is where my science is going right now, and trying to figure out what colors can replenish the minerals and the vitamins because we're seeing a lot of people taking too many supplements and ingesting a lot of stuff that's fillers, and the capsules have metals in them, and we're poisoning ourselves. So what if we can replenish with, say, a silk scarf or a red light or yellow jewelry or yellow clothing, because that frequency is what our body needs. So that's where I'm going next.
Thank you both so much for what you do in the world, in your lives, and all the people that you affect and lift up. It's incredible to be in your presence and just see the power that you've put out in the world. And I really am honored to speak to you both and know you both.
Thank you. This was fun. This was
This was
really
fun. Thank you for
a
having us.
way to do this. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah. All right, my dear.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, bye, ladies.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Beginner's Guide to the Third Eye. For more information about the show, visit our website, beginnersguidetothethirdeye.com. For show inquiries, email us at guidetothethirdeye@gmail.com, and visit the shop page on our website to find many of the products suggested by our practitioners and participants. And if you would be so kind, please leave a review and follow us on your go-to podcast platform, as it helps build our audience. Thank you. See you soon.